I used to think adults knew what they were doing, and then I actually became one. And honestly, that was a very disappointing plot twist, because the older I get, the more I realized most people are not following some clear master plan. They're guessing their way through life. Even the people online giving you extremely confident life advice are often just describing the one route that happened to work for them. And that is why so many people feel lost now. They aren't dumb, the old map just stopped working. And the job market, dating, and tech have all changed at a rapid rate, and the internet has flooded your brain with 900 different versions of success. So no wonder you're now standing there like a Pokemon trainer who just walked into a cave with no flash, pretending this is a good strategy. Maybe you're just finally seeing the game for what it is, and then you end up winging it anyway, like how you did it with Rock Tunnel. That's what this video is about, moving through uncertainty without letting it eat you alive. So let's talk about what you actually do with that. A lot of us grew up with a very simple life map. Get educated, get a job, work hard, and eventually everything will make sense. It's basically the real life version of just beat the next gym and the path will open. And to be clear, that path still works for some people. And I'm not saying that every traditional path is dead and every job is evil. My point is that the old map no longer works automatically. You can follow the guidebook perfectly and still end up standing in front of a blocked route wondering which random NPC you forgot to talk to. I know this from my own life. I got a master's degree in chemistry. I did the responsible thing on paper, and yet the 9-to-5 path has been way more difficult and unclear for me than I expected. My first job felt very low paying for the amount of education I had, and later job hunting itself still felt really hard, even with a degree and actual experience. At some point you start having this thought of, wait, I followed what I was supposed to do, but why is this still so fragile? And why am I so confused here? I think a lot of people can relate to this. It's not just that people don't want to work anymore, it's that a lot of people are looking at the default path and realizing it doesn't really deliver on the promise that we were told growing up. It might still be part of the answer, but it's not the whole map anymore. And the confusing part about all of this is that if the map is incomplete, then suddenly you're not just following instructions anymore. You actually have to navigate yourself and unlock these new parts on the map. And this is what a lot of people struggle with. The next problem I like to call advice pollution, because everyone and their mother and their grandmother gives advice these days. You're watching a video with Pokemon in the background with advice. Just think about that. Your parents have advice for you, your teachers have advice for you, the whole internet has advice for you. Some 22-year-old is sitting somewhere in his mom's basement teaching you how to become a millionaire by Thursday, and somehow he's always yelling at you from a whiteboard. The problem is not that all this is wrong, it's just that this kind of advice only makes sense inside the world it was actually built for. Let me put it to you this way, a Pokemon Red guide does not help you much if you're playing Pokemon Emerald. There might be some similarities, but at some point you're gonna look very stupid trying to find Brock in the Hoenn region. I used to believe that building an online business was much easier than it actually was, and it was much quicker than it actually was, because there's all these guys telling you this online. So I originally started a business at age 23, and I'm now 30. And I've tried multiple things. I've tried to make that thing succeed, which was a guitar online teaching business. And yeah, I've had some business wins. I have a decent going photography freelancing business these days. I have this YouTube channel now, but all of this took way longer to build than what people are telling you online. And because there's so much different advice, some person tells you to do this with your YouTube channel, and some other person tells you that this is the worst thing you could do with your YouTube channel. There's all this advice that's that direct counter to the other, that's difficult to figure out what actually is gonna work for me. So no wonder people freeze when one person says go to university and another says university is useless. And then the next person says follow your passion and another one says your passion is a trap. Eventually every option sounds both smart and stupid at the same time. That is what advice pollution does. It doesn't give you any clarity, it just gives you a lot of noise with confidence. And this is why you need to be careful who you let become the Professor Oak of your life. Some people are not handing you a starter Pokemon, they are handing you their unresolved trauma and a clean thumbnail. So I'd absolutely recommend don't follow too many people, just find some people you resonate with, whether it's me or whether it's someone else, but try to find 2 to 5 people max, and just listen to those people, but still evaluate on the things they're telling you so you can actually make the decisions for yourself and don't just blindly follow what they tell you to do. Apart from advice pollution, there's another trap here. When the world feels confusion, a lot of people, they will turn to hopelessness. You look at the job market, AI, the dating market, the cost of living, and you go, yeah, obviously this is all broken. There's no point to this. And for a second, it does make you feel better, because you've just accepted the state of the world. You essentially just walked into the burnt tower of your own brain and decided to live there. And I get that feeling, I really do. Sometimes the doomer perspective feels smart because it notices the real problems. And a lot of these problems, they are real. The economy is weird today, the job market is difficult, and there's the comparison trap of social media and seeing people do better than you online. I've felt these in different ways, about my own job hunting frustrations, about not going fast on YouTube, about the business building being so slow. And I've thought maybe this just doesn't work, maybe this will never work. But the dangerous part of all this is that hopelessness often feels like clarity, because it gives you a complete, non-binary answer. The answer is just, nothing works. And that is in a weird way very comforting, because if nothing works, you don't have to try. You don't have to risk being wrong. You don't have to pick a direction and potentially look stupid. You can just sit there, call the world broken, and feel like you've solved it. The emotional equivalent of losing to the Elite Four once and deciding the entire Pokemon League is corrupt. Maybe it is, but sometimes you still need a better team, and seeing the problems is awareness. And using the problems as a reason to stop moving is shutdown. And shutting down is not wise and won't get you far in life, and will lead to a worse life in the future if you don't accept there's things in the world you cannot change, and that there actually is hope if you decide to try, even though things feel very difficult and even impossible. I think another reason that so many people feel lost now is that we barely hear ourselves anymore. Most people, they wake up and immediately their attention is outsourced to their phone, their messages, music, podcasts, YouTube videos, work, and even more phone. And they wonder why they don't know what they want. Of course you don't. You haven't had a clean signal from yourself in years. Your inner voice is trying to speak, but it's being drowned out by 6 apps, 3 podcasts, and some guy telling you to become unrecognizable by next Tuesday. Purpose cannot be handed to you. Someone else can inspire you and can potentially point out a possible route, but they cannot taste your life for you. You can't ask the internet for what your soul is really craving. If your own internal signals are numb, you'll start copying what looks good from the outside. You'll see one guy getting rich online and you think you need a business. And you'll see another guy with a stable corporate life and you think, maybe that's the answer. But if you're constantly bombarding yourself with different inputs and you never give your inner voice a space to speak, then you might not be going in the direction you really want yourself. Back after I'd failed, I think my second or third YouTube channel, I decided to look into faceless YouTube channels because I thought maybe that's an easy way to make money. And I only did it because that's what I was bombarded with in my algorithm. You know, I already have YouTube experience. I'll make this work with faceless. And I really did not like it. Technically, Neosphere is a faceless channel, but that's my own voice speaking, and that's a different game because it's a thing that I'm actually passionate about. But this faceless channel, it wasn't something I found very fulfilling, and I quickly quit. But that was actually got pulled into a path because I desperately wanted to make money online, and I was starting to give up on all the former business models I've done. And copying the person I saw absolutely did not work for me because I didn't listen to my inner compass. It was never gonna work for me. I hated it. So please do yourself the favor of developing your inner compass and giving yourself the space to really think occasionally. Pick up a journal and write down your thoughts. And also be critical of the stuff I tell you here in these videos. Do they actually work for you? Are you in a situation in your life where these videos benefits you? Because otherwise, I become part of the problem. And that leads me into the fact that I think awareness is starting to become one of the most important skills you can have these days. And what I mean by awareness is that now that everyone has access to information, where you can ask an AI almost anything, you can watch tutorials on almost anything, information is not rare anymore, but being aware is the ability to notice what's actually happening inside of you, and the ability to notice when you're avoiding something, when you're copying something, when you're doom scrolling because you're scared. That is the modern way of having high intelligence. It's being aware. It's not how much do you know, it's can you tell when your brain is using a side quest to avoid the main story? Because the smartest person nowadays is not always the one with the best answer. Sometimes it's the one who can tell when he's lying to himself. I wish I understood that earlier, because I spent so much time trying to think my way into certainty, trying to find the perfect plan, the perfect path, and the perfect next move, and perfect life design. And even so, ChatGPT knows way more about me than it should, because I tend to sometimes still overthink a lot, and I talk to ChatGPT a lot about these strategies I have and these ideas I have in life. But the best clarity I've ever gotten is just from doing something and watching what happened, and not trying to think my way through it. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because they think they need the whole map before they can actually move. Whether it be the full career plan, the dating plan, the identity plan. And I get that. I wish it was that easy. And I would pay for that DLC if that was the case. But for the 99% out there, you don't get the whole map. You get the next route and that's it. But that is enough. You don't need to know your entire life purpose to start building skills. and you don't need to know exactly who you are to stop doing the thing that's clearly making you worse. Sometimes people act like they're waiting for deep clarity when it's really obvious that just go and talk to that person, or just send that application. So while you may not know your life purpose at this point in time, you probably know one thing you should start taking seriously, and you probably know one conversation you've been avoiding. So that is your starting point. That is your Route 101. It may not look that interesting, there may be a wormhole, but it counts. And then as you fight that wormhole, the game will reveal more to you as you move. That's how life works. It's an annoying design choice of the higher powers, but apparently we're stuck with it. I spent, I believe, 5 months before I actually made the first video for Nearsphere. And that was the resistance I felt with, do I really want to fail another YouTube channel? Will this be something I enjoy? Will this resonate with anyone? Will I actually like making these kinds of videos? And then I made the first video, and then it felt like the weight had just lifted off my shoulders. It became way easier, and now I'm just making these videos effortlessly at this point. But even though it is quite effortless to make these videos, what you should know is when you start moving, resistance will show up in different ways. And that can be, should you change the direction with your channel? Should you make more videos? Should you try these different thumbnail styles? Should you try more storytelling? Should you try to make more videos on building a personal brand, on being confused in your 20s? Like, there's all these extra things that come up as you start. And a lot of the time your brain will go, let's not do it. And that's actually where a lot of people quit, because sometimes you do see YouTubers have a good streak of posting for 6 months and it looks like they're doing well. Maybe they even have over 1,000 subscribers, and then suddenly they quit the game because they decided to listen to their brain. You don't like making these videos anymore, or you don't like the audience that's watching your videos. And that might be a true thought, but it's often temporary. It's just resistance in a costume, cosplaying as you don't like this channel that you've built for yourself. So it's such a shame if you're not self-aware and actually reflect on this. You might just quit things that you really like because you encounter resistance. Because we often have this fantasy of what the perfect, in my case, YouTube channel would look like, but you have to be a realist here and allow yourself to be uncomfortable at times, even with things you love. Because the fantasy is like building the perfect Pokemon team in your head, but action is realizing that you have to actually grind levels, and that your starter has a terrible nature. So if you feel resistance, don't automatically treat it like a stop sign. Sometimes it's just a sign that you are leaving the familiar area of the map. And yes, there may be Zubats, but we keep moving, because apparently every meaningful cave in life comes with at least one annoying flying rat. So yes, nobody knows exactly what they're doing, but that does not mean everyone is equally lost. Some people realize that the map is broken and they stop moving. Other people realize the map is broken and start building a compass. That's the difference. The goal is not to become a person who never feels confused. That person does not exist. And if they do, they're probably selling a course, or they're an NPC who only says one line when you press A. The goal is to become someone who can move while they are confused. This is exactly what I'm trying to do right now and have been doing for the last many years. I have often no idea which Neosphere video will actually do well. I might have a slight idea, but I just put stuff out there and I use the data to iterate on my videos. So my advice to you is don't wait until you know exactly what you're doing, because nobody does. Just pick yourself up from here, push yourself ahead and adjust as you go. That's how you build your inner compass. And if this video made sense to you, leave a comment with the area of life where you feel like you're currently winging it. Whether it be career, money, dating, purpose, whatever it is. Because I think a lot of us are dealing with the same confusion, and we're just usually pretending we're not. And honestly, I think it would be a relief if more of us admitted to that feeling.